supposed to snow tomorrow. All
We
right.
are in game. All right, the remake for round two of Group C is here, and we have a large iron patch and a large water patch. That is, somebody is going to find scientists there. Maybe two people, because there are two similar patches very close by. That seems like it's the best thing on the map by some distance.
Yes. So this is a case where steel is super cheap. I'm taking this already. You need to take this scientific
Yeah,
spot. I wouldn't wait for
crush
26
some of
at
the
all.
steel. There it is. Philothanic takes it.
And the other scientist spot over there is the second best, and that needs to go down now.
Yeah, it's El
Ooh,
Capitan puts a
robotic.
robotic down though instead, which does surprise me a little bit. I think there's enough water on this map that you don't need to go robotic.
So
Um,
there is one more. There's a scavenger with non-adjacent carbon to the south of that would be okay. It's still not the best, but carbon's at $8 because everybody sold it down.
yeah,
So
yeah. And there's
I would
some,
consider taking that.
yeah, maybe there's a high carbon as well just next to Philothanic space that you can potentially ship in from. A scientist spot comes down. This is a much less good scientific spot, but it does immediately get to HQ2. And Jim Bob goes scientist as well, so we've got three scientists and a robotic in this game, and that seems a little bit excessive. That's an optimistic scientist found to me from
Yes.
Jim Bob.
So I'm okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if I agree with that one just because, nothing around him is going to be worth that much. I do, however, like Macros is found with the exception of you need to found there, but don't take the waters right there and don't put steel down. So
Hmm.
iron is really expensive, steel not so much. I would be okay with him founding right there, but maybe do it a little differently where I oh, you know what? He had to found that far away because of El Capitan's found.
Yeah, because it was too close. And I mean, maybe there's something to be said for founding right next to the iron instead. But I mean, even then, it's kind of awkward. I can see the trade-offs he was wrestling with there that led him to make the decision that he made. He is. I mean, it's an interesting decision to go with the water first, though. I don't know whether he didn't have the money to. I guess he didn't have the money to put the farms down. But farms are really good. Um,
I guess the only way I would change this around though is these are non-adjacent claims.
mm,
And so there was a medium water, a low water right next to his base, and then so he could have just hugged the cliff right here and taken these three. I guess
yeah,
he was
yeah, he could.
concerned maybe that somebody else was going to get something, but still having access to the water right now would at least be better if you're going to do that. But
Yeah.
wait, and he's going in for more water, but water is $3. I actually don't really understand.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
he
don't
thought
understand this at all. I guess he's going to go with the water close to his base and then replace some of that with farms, but like he did.
But still,
I don't.
water's. Oh, I mean, I think it might. Some of it is that he probably can't afford anything because he
Yeah.
doesn't have any. Let's see, where's his? He has no
Until
money.
his steel comes in. His steel's about to come in, so maybe he should have shipped that a little bit earlier. I think I would have done that. Um,
Yes.
Look at Phil's
Oh,
water,
let's see.
or rather, not Phil's water anymore. It's other people's water, because they've
Oh,
taken
El
it all.
Capitan
Um,
has ruined it. Yeah.
so yeah, Phil's found that he paid 24,000 in debt for. Not looking quite so good without that water there.
But you know what though? Slant drilling will fix that very easily because there's still plenty of adjacency all the way around that water, and you can still connect it to your base.
That's true, but you're fighting two other scientists for slant drilling as well. Slant drilling here is pretty much universally good. Whoever gets slant drilling will have a huge advantage.
The advantage, I would say that you're not really fighting the other two scientists for slant drilling. The reason I would say that is you found it first, so you're gonna get to those updates, those upgrade first if you're doing what you need to do.
Yeah,
Um,
I think all else being equal, I think that's true, but I'm not sure all
yeah,
else will be equal. And it's a question of how much you commit to it. Like,
yes.
do you go with a level 3 pattern lab? He's just hit 3.
Mhm.
Do you go for? I mean, chems are only 100, so that might be viable, but it's a question of whether you do that now, and it's a question of if you don't, is somebody else going to go a level 3 pattern lab
Mhm.
and steal it out from under you?
So there's an interesting possible play here for Jim Bob. He's the one with the least amount of debt, and the power is at 186 because we have all of these scientists and we have all of these people that have tons of things but not enough power online. There is a geothermal coming down for Phil, but and as you can see, Jim Bob started rotating into 2 wind turbines. He could really make some money and catch back up with power.
Yep, I think that's his plan. He's basically paid off all of his debt now. It's just a few more seconds before that completes. So, yeah, I think he's in a really good position to do that.
The other thing that I would consider doing, and I'm assuming that
Phil's building a pattern lab, by the way, just to finish our conversation from earlier. So it looks like he will get that slant drilling first.
Yes. Now, so in this case, Jim Bob is actually starting to make money on power. The next thing I would try to do is similar to, actually exactly what he's doing. Go out and try to take out other people's power and or throw some circuit overloads out there to help feed your market.
Yeah, there's a geotherm that's right next to Phil's base that he is not protecting right now.
He is. It actually.
Oh, he is. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, he is protecting it. I didn't have him selected. My mistake. So yeah, everyone has their geotherms protected, which is pretty sensible.
I would say the other thing here, it's kind of difficult to. Oh, there we go. It was kind of difficult to pick out Jim Bob's territory from El Capitan and Philothenic because it's all in there, and it's a green, a yellow, and a blue, so it just kind of blends in. But
yeah, it is. He has carved out a triangle there, Jim Bob, which is going to be really good for him. He's going to get 3 farms up. Although farms aren't that good right now, but still, it's not. It's something for him. And he's putting a pattern lab up as well.
Yes. So so let's take this one by one. Let's start with Macros and see what sort of thing he could do to get back in. Now, he is unfortunately in C debt, and power is, he doesn't really have any power online. That's going to be a real concern because it's about to tick over. Oh no, he's probably not going to get to D debt by the time,
Well, yeah, he's gonna take a C debt tick, but that will put him into D debt after the tick. So yeah, he's gonna have problems.
Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, power is surplusing at this point. So that's bad for Macros because he's not going to be able to rely on sticking power up to dig himself out of debt.
I don't know. Is he planning to stick power up? I don't know how realistic that goal is. He's not anywhere near upgrading. He doesn't have any power claims. So literally, unless he replaces his electrolysis, and he can't really afford to do that either because carbon's so high. So I think it might be a good thing for Macros. I don't think he has a plan to get out of that debt. He might still be in. Yeah, he might still be in huge amounts of trouble, but he would have been in even more trouble without the surplus.
Yes. So let's take a look at Jim Bob, our power player. Now it's interesting that I'm not really sure the reason why he hasn't been able to upgrade because he has been making power money for a long time.
I think the reason is because steel is really expensive and he's not making any steel.
Ah, I didn't even notice. Oh yeah, because he subbed out of it in order to be able to get his 3 wind turbines.
Yeah, exactly. So there was a large cost to that.
And I actually don't know why he has an iron mine. Okay, now he's transitioned out of it again, but he had 2 iron mines there for quite a long time. What ended up happening is a bunch of other people upgraded, raised the steel price, and then he kind of got left in the dust because he was making power money, but he wasn't making steel, so they end up...
Something else I want to point out is that he just got teleportation. Now, teleportation, I think the benefits on this map, even though he's shipping a bunch long distances, I think the benefits are really marginal. And also, look at the price of chems! Look at the price of chems, like 250. How much did that cost him? That cost him 20,000 plus to get that teleportation and the patent lab resources. That was a huge investment, I think, for quite a marginal gain.
Yeah, that is definitely, that's a very excellent point about that chem cost. And we have 3 people with patent labs at this point.
Yeah.
3 out of the 4 people have patent labs, and that is, and nobody's making chemicals too. So the only thing I could see being worth it right now is carbon scrubbing. But even then at this point,
Yeah,
you're
well,
not gonna,
El
that's
Capitan
expensive.
is going with carbon scrubbing, so presumably as soon as that finishes, he's going to get into chems. That makes so much sense. They are insanely profitable even without carbon scrubbing. Um,
Yeah.
with carbon scrubbing, they are just off the charts. Um, that's like a good like $300 a tile per second in
Yes.
chems.
Now, interesting. So Jim Bob has he is putting 3 chem labs out, and he has teleportation. So that's definitely going to be good. I would expect that the chem prices will die off relatively quickly, though, because no one's going to be staying in a patent lab at this point. Although Phil is still going for thinking machines, and
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, even like getting chems up now, I think it's a total no-brainer because like 350, like they're 350. It takes a
Yeah.
lot of crashing before that crashes. Like
Yes.
especially with El Capitan having carbon scrubbing, especially with fuel. Look at fuel is at $30. Like, it's absolutely insanely profitable. $281 per tile for Jim Bob on those chems.
Wow.
That's like that's like what is that? That's close to an off-world. Like that's insane.
Yes.
Oh, and
So,
because what we needed at this point was an optimization center auction to make things more interesting.
and I bet you someone is really gonna overbid for this one too.
Yeah,
Like,
it's not actually that. I mean, it's just because
it's an
chems are
awful
so high.
optimization center. It's
Yeah,
not near anything that'll help. And chems are so expensive that it's, yeah. So this is something when people look back at this. This is going to go for way more than it actually should go. Whenever you
yeah.
look see an optimization center, number one
I think
is it
this
near
is.
something that's actually going to help.
I think 20 was about par for this auction. Phil's gonna get it for 32. I'd kind of expected to go a little bit higher than that, but that I don't think. Yeah, I don't think I would have paid 32 for it.
Definitely not in that position, but remember when you want to use that optimization center, suddenly you're looking at roughly 7K per optimization to start off with because chems are
Mm.
so expensive. So
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big investment. Still, only one person. Oh, Jim Bob is now making chems as well. Oh no, hang what? Jim Bob's making more chems in the southeast. He's like,
ah.
hey, chems are amazing. Let's make 6 instead of 3 lots of chems. I can't really fault him for that. They are amazing. Um,
Oh yeah, I can't fault him either because he's still making 159 per second on each of them,
yeah,
and
it's insane.
to drive the carbon price up. But he's got let's see, he's got carbon saved up,
Yep, he
so
has.
he's
And
doing really well with that.
El Capitan, how did he get that carbon? Has he got nanotech? Is that what? Yeah, that's what he
He
did. He got
does have
nanotech and scrapped the wind turbines. That was really smart.
that was
Um,
great.
El Capitan now has 2 optimization centers, and also is in chems with carbon scrubbing, and they still are insanely profitable. He's also optimizing them, and yeah, he's optimizing them, which is a good move. Like even at this point, like with 3 people with well, 2 people with a total of 3 triangles, or one's not really a triangle, but like in fact 4 people with 3, or 3 people with 4 triangles of chems, they're not crashing quickly enough, and there's a random shortage as well,
Oh
which
wow,
is insane.
wow.
So like even with all of that activity in chems, they're still very 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 good because market conditions at the start of this were so good for them.
So here's something. El Capitan is getting really aggressive. What I want to see Jim Bob do is stab him in the back, go by El
Yeah.
Capitan, and you could actually probably finish that buy because Jim Bob is sitting on 128K, 130K. All you have to do is buy in. You can take El Capitan out, and you can finish that buy
He's got the money to
before he
defend
can
himself,
sell
though.
out.
He does have the money to defend himself. He's got the cash and resources that he needs to do that.
Oh, El
Um,
Capitan does. That's true.
yeah, yeah,
I would still buy into him before
yeah,
he gets close to macros, and that slows down that slows down the possible buy on macros.
Yeah, it does. Just looking at the debt situation, Macros is still in a bunch of debt, and he's not getting out of it because he's not making any power or enough power. Um, and yeah, he's right on the cusp of being in D debt. There's no cook the books available, so he might be in a little bit of trouble. He's not HQ5 yet either.
Yeah.
So overall, I think he's really struggling.
Yeah, and unfortunately he's kind of been dead for a while just because of the power situation.
Yeah.
Is really been it. By the time he could get into it, then the power market crashed. It spiked back up, but unfortunately he needs he actually doesn't need all of this territory anymore. If you look at the electrolysis reactors, they're not doing that great.
Yeah, that's true. I wanna point something out as well. Phil has taken 2 carbon with carbon scrubbing there, but there's 2 tiles away from that. There's a high carbon. That was a really interesting decision. Did he not see it?
Huh. Yeah, I don't know.
He took those very recently. Yeah, I don't know. That seems it seems like he didn't see the high carbon that was 2 tiles away. Pretty funny.
But let's see. So Jim becomes the first person with an off-world.
Yeah, what are offworlds? Oh, offworlds are insane again. What's going on?
They're fantastic, which is part of the reason why. Granted, that's part of the reason why Phil went for thinking machines, because they are so good. But
yeah, no, that was very smart. Even though it was such a big investment at the time for thinking machines, that was another 20k that he dropped on that.
Whoa! I've got to point out. Hold on a second. This is Jim. Whoa! Oh, Phil is making 3,700 a second on power.
Oh,
3,700 on
What
power.
is that? That's a solar panel plus 3 solar panels plus a geotherm, both with superconductor. That is insane.
Superconductor, perpetual motion right there.
That's how you crash power.
Crash that power price, but look at how much debt he paid off from that. He's still making 1,500 a second at $63 power.
He's not going to make any cash, unfortunately, but yeah, wow, that's really impressive.
That's going to do wonders for his. That's going to do wonders for his stock price.
Yeah, it is, and he needed that as well. Macross, I think that dooms Macross in terms of his levels of debt. 220. We're halfway to another debt tick, but I don't think he's getting out of D debt pretty much ever.
Yeah. So at this point, I'm looking at El Capitan and Jim Bob. Jim Bob have about equal cash, but El Capitan is in a stronger position because he's got most of a subsidiary that's about to spiral off soon. If you're Jim Bob, what do you think you do in this case? Defend yourself. I'd probably stick up another off-world at this point.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, he has 200k. I mean, you can possibly even defend yourself and put another off-world up at this point. You know, you have enough capital to do that. Does he really have 3 optimization centers? Is that something that he has? I guess he does. Yeah, fair enough. So yeah, I would turn one of those optimization centers into an off-world, and also just buy the rest. I kind of want to buy all of my stock, honestly, at this point. If I'm Jim Bob, he seems at the moment to be in the best position to make money in the long term.
Yes.
Possibly with the exception of Phil, who has thinking machines, which helps an awful lot. But Jim Bobs have so many big sort of long-term advantages. With the teleportation as well, and also this glass that he's just been in is really, really good. Electronics also really, really good. Chems are also still really, really good. All of these things, like just a bunch of money to be made just from stuff, quite aside from the off-worlds. So yeah, I would. So and yeah, he's doing exactly that. He's putting a second off-world up, and he's bought 5 of his stock. And as I said, I'd be tempted to buy the rest of them as well.
I'm trying to figure out if I would actually buy the rest of my own stock, because on one hand you're defending yourself and you're making yourself you're making a good case that people won't mess with you then because you've got all of your stock. On the other hand, I think I might try to do something like I was going to say buy into El Capitan just to try to see if you can get a little bit and see if you can get Phil to try to buy into him too. Because he's, having most of Macros' stock puts him in a really strong position. So if you can get, just buy one into El Capitan to see if you can both gang up on him, then I think Jim Bob wins the fight in the end against Phil just because of teleportation and 2 off-worlds. So
Yeah, I think you might be right there. We have some mutiny wars going on. Jim Bob has, I think, had one of his off-worlds taken away by El Capitan eventually after a little bit of back and forth with Phil. Jim Bob also buying into Phil, which, yeah, I can see that being a good move. I don't know. I think I'm not sure which is the best move, but I think buying into somebody like that is fine. He's certainly going to be able to kill Phil, and Phil is the person with thinking machines.
yes,
So
an off-world
and an off-world, and so yeah, there's lots of reasons to do that, and I think that's fair enough. Phil is going to try and buy into Jim Bob as well, but he's much too late. Jim Bob definitely shouldn't be buying his own stock here if he's committing to the Phil buy, though.
Yes. Yeah, and you know what? I think I looking at it, I think I do agree with that move toward Phil because Phil is going to be a lot more profitable than El Capitan. The only advantage of getting El Capitan is you get, a bunch of macros as well. But yeah, I could see going this direction because Jim can definitely win the race against Phil.
Yeah, there's not even a doubt about that. And yeah, he's still buying into himself, which
Yeah.
I don't really agree with, because like you get that stock anyway if Phil buys it. Like it's not a
Yes.
that's
Correct.
basically wasted money.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's money that he could have put toward ending Phil. So yeah, make sure when you're in a strong enough position where you can go for and and kill somebody, don't buy the rest of your 5 stock.
Yeah. And particularly if it's a very clear 1v1 like that, where they're looking to buy your stock.
Yes.
It's just a waste of money. El Capitan is the only other person I think with any sort of a realistic shot of winning this game now. But I think, yeah, it's not much of a shot, honestly. He's got a bunch of money. He could buy Macross basically anytime he wanted to,
Yes.
which is really good. And yeah, Phil sells out of Jim Bob. Jim Bob does buy the rest of his stock. And he's not actually, I wonder whether he realizes that he has enough money. Because he's just got a bunch of, like, again, random stuff that he's not sold down, that's
Yes.
in his inventory. And only actually has 140k of cash. So again, it's just about identifying the fact that you have the money to kill somebody when you do.
hmm So here's an interesting thought. When Phil sells out of that 1 share, let's say you're Jim Bob the Mighty, strategically, do you try to just keep pushing for the buy on Phil, or do you try to get those 5 stock of El Capitan before he clears the buy on
Yeah,
Macros?
that's a really good thought, because yeah, El Capitan stock price went up just like $20 there,
And
which is a
if
big
you,
deal.
yeah, and if you get even a couple of those shares, then you're paying 20k less per share to get
Yeah.
all of those.
Yeah,
I'm really
exactly.
thinking that at that point, I don't think Jim Bob was close enough that he could really push for Phil. So if you see El Capitan's about to complete the buy, they're open shares of stock, so they're way cheaper than if he has to buy.
Yeah.
If El Capitan ends up buying his shares, I would have preferred to get just a couple, and then finish it. And I mean, it wasn't like Phil was in any position to buy Jim, and now he can just wait for Phil to buy all 5 shares and then buy him. Is what you need to do.
Yeah, that's true.
So in the meantime, if you're Jim, I'd probably go into El Capitan, I think.
Yeah.
Well, he finished the buy, but
Because yeah, you could afford to, with Phil floundering so far behind. He didn't have
So
the
that didn't-
cash.
so that didn't really do that much for his stock price. Is what's unfortunate. If you look at
Yeah,
his, if you look at his share beforehand, I mean, you've got Phil. Phil will start to become really profitable for him pretty soon. But
well, it went up. It went up about $10, and it's also his stock price is falling generally because he is getting into more and more debt, as
Yeah.
well, which makes a difference. But Jim Bob has, I want to say, yeah, a really big advantage,
Yeah.
at this point. And I think pretty much barring something catastrophic happening, I think he wins this game.
I mean, just having a full subsidiary and 5 of your own shares. This is
Yeah.
where before I got a chance. First of all, El Capitan needs to be buying his own shares.
Yeah,
Those
he
five
absolutely does.
there definitely need to be done because Jim Bob is getting those so cheaply. So that's he's got to secure himself, and this is
And he needs basically $1 million
over.
to kill Jim Bob. So you need
Yes.
to do that just for the, it's the long-term play that costs you cash in the short term, but you still need to do it. But yeah, this game's absolutely over now. Um, Jim Bob needs what 400k or something like that, and yeah, El Capitan needs 800, 900 plus.
Yes. Note worth noting, if you look at El Capitan's base, he is losing $12 per chem lab, and chems are only $9. So this is one of those times where you need every single penny, and look how profitable things like food are. Well, not anymore because the water's so
Yeah, I was going to say there's
expensive.
actually not that much money to be made. I mean, electronics is really where it's
Yeah,
at, but they already have a bunch of electronics.
yeah.
So you're really looking at something like, yeah, if you don't have the water, then there's not a whole lot you can do. El
Mm,
Capitan has a little bit of water, but not a huge amount of water.
mm,
He's only getting zero 0.5 per second as it is at the moment, because he's already making some food and some power.
mm. And El Capitan does have a hacker array out, and it looks like he's probably been hacking chemicals, I believe it
He
is.
has been, yeah. And Jim Bob is keeping some chems in his stockpile, which is a sensible thing to do when that happens.
I wonder if does Jim have a spy on that area? Let's see.
No, I don't. Oh, no, he doesn't. No, he doesn't.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
just out of it. Anyway, he has the money now. Again, he needs to realize that he has the money, um, which he doesn't seem to have done.
I think he's probably just waiting for this launch, and then he's gonna buy him.
Yeah.
He's so close. And at this point,
There it is.
El Capitan wasn't really looking for it, so you just wait for the.
Yeah. A well played game overall by Jim Bob. And I mean, to be honest, I think the teleportation play kind of worked out. I mean, it let him make that insane amount of money that he made on chems.
On chems, that's true.
So in the long term, it did have it was a huge investment, and it put him behind quite a lot. But he was able. I mean, he was really the first person to identify that chems was so good that you basically had to make chems at whatever cost.
And he
Um,
did lose out on carbon scrubbing, so in that
yeah,
case,
yeah, he did.
couldn't stick it next to his base, but
But yeah, overall, I mean, I think he played certainly the mid and late game very well indeed.
yes.